All right, let's dive into one of the most interesting and maybe one of the most challenging laws from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Today, we are breaking down Law 24, Play the Perfect Courtier. We're going to look at what it really teaches us about navigating the tricky social worlds we all live in.
So let me start with a question for you. Are you playing a game you don't even realize is happening? See, Robert Greene's whole point is that in our offices, in our social circles, even in our industries, there is a constant, quiet war for power being fought right under the surface.
And this leads us to the central paradox of our modern world, what the book calls the civilized war. On the one hand, right, everything is supposed to appear fair and civilized and democratic. But Greene argues that underneath all that polite stuff, the game is exactly the same as it's always been. It's a ruthless competition for power and for influence.
To really get this, he uses the old royal courts as a perfect analogy. Life back then in the court was this non-stop game. One wrong move, one misplaced word, and you could be finished. It demanded constant tactical awareness. Sound a little familiar?
So how do you navigate this so-called civilized war? Well, this is where Greene introduces Law 24 and this archetype of the perfect courtier.
Now, a courtier isn't just some suck-up. No. They are masters of political skill. They get that direct confrontation is clumsy, it's dangerous. Their real power comes from subtlety, from charm, and from the art of the indirect move.
The perfect courtier absolutely thrives by mastering this art of indirection. Yeah, they might flatter and seem to yield to their superiors, but they're asserting their own power in the most clever and graceful ways. It's an entire system for navigating power. So let's get practical. What does this actually look like in action? Well, the book lays out a playbook with several key strategies for mastering this art.
Look, these aren't just tips on etiquette, they're survival tactics. You avoid ostentation because bragging just creates envy and enemies. You practice nonchalance to make your talents seem totally natural, which is way less threatening to the people above you. You arrange to be noticed, but subtly, so your ambition isn't screaming in their face. You alter your style, becoming a social chameleon. And, this is a big one, you never, ever joke about someone's taste. It's just too personal and a surefire way to make an enemy for life.
You know, when you look at all these strategies, they all point back to one single overarching philosophy, the art of indirection. This is the key takeaway, for real. Direct action, direct requests, direct criticism, that's for amateurs. The master of power, the courtier, has learned that every single move has to be indirect, kind of cushioned and subtle, if you want it to actually be effective. You know who summed this up perfectly? Napoleon Bonaparte, a master of power if there ever was one. He said, "Place your iron hand inside a velvet glove." Think about that. The iron hand is your will, your ambition, but it always has to be hidden inside the velvet glove of grace, charm, and indirection.
The book puts it even more bluntly. Now, this isn't literal advice, obviously. It's a metaphor for the courtier's whole method. Even your most aggressive moves have to be masked by an appearance of elegance and pleasantry. It's ruthless, but man, is it effective.
So what's the end goal here? What's the ultimate power you get by mastering this game and becoming that perfect courtier? It's not just about getting a promotion. By mastering these arts, you can subtly outmaneuver your rivals, and you can make people bend to your will, a lot of times without them even knowing it's happening. But maybe the most potent power of all is becoming a source of pleasure. People will actually grow dependent on your presence, and that dependency, that's the ultimate control. To close this out, let's look at this quote from Machiavelli. It's a pretty stark reminder that the world of power operates on its own set of rules. Our traditional ideas of good and bad often just don't apply. In this world, effectiveness is what really truly matters. And that leaves us with a final thought. Take a look at your own world, your workplace, your industry. Who are the rulers? Who are the courtiers? And most importantly, what role are you playing in this never-ending game?